Where do you put the importance of some of these ideas at the founding of the United States? When then now we're talking about at the context of China, the freedom of speech, freedoms. What China is doing with the central management of a lot of things, it's enabling a lot of growth, but it's also limiting people on the very basic level in terms of freedom, the kind of freedom that I think can lead to entrepreneurship, to starting new businesses, to having big dreams and chasing those dreams, and then creating totally new things in whatever the space, maybe in technology, and in business, and whatever. How important is that as a metric for society?
Well, they have a view which is the idea of a dialectic, which means that two things are at odds, that everything comes with pros and cons, and two opposites exist. And you want the benefits of those two opposites. And how do you deal with the benefits of those two opposites?
Right.
So let's say you want the capital markets because it gets money into the hands of the entrepreneurs who are motivated, they build fortunes, and that drives an economy to do very well. And at the same time, it produces the other problems, the wealth gaps, the other problems in the debt cycle that we're talking about, and so on. And Deng Xiaoping, how do you reconcile communism and the market economy and the capital markets? And he famously said, and if it doesn't matter if it's a white cat or a black cat, just as long as it catches mice. In other words, if it works in making the country richer, then that becomes the objective, and then they move that along. So there are these conflicts. And one of the leaders described it to me as follows, because it's confusion and it goes back over a period of time. There's a hierarchy, and it's an extension of the family, he described it. And he said, the United States is a country of individuals and individualism. And that is its vibrancy that we see. The individual rights to speak up, the individual protection of the individual property rights, and all of those things is of paramount importance. And we build our organization. That's why democracy is from the bottom up, or even a company will get together and we'll be partners to prosper together. That is the American approach. He was describing that in China, it's an extension of the Confucian family, essentially. And so it's almost like, there's a hierarchy. And so what they think about is the common good, not the individualism. So, for example, if they want a high-speed rail to go from one place to another, and that's best in the common good, then the individual protections that would stand in the way of doing that would be of secondary concern. So that notion of controlling. So it for example, what they're doing with video games, they control what type of video games and how many hours a day kids can be on video games. Operating in that way, because they believe that that's good for the society, and that's very controlling. In the United States, I think probably most parents would say, leave it to me, and it's a matter between me and my kids. The same thing has to do with data. In other words, in the United States, who controls the data? Does the company control the data? Do you individually control the data? And so the inclination would be to figure that out, but nobody would say that the government is going to control the data because of our inclination of really anti-government control. In China, it would be that the government will control the data because that's going to be best for the society, and it depends who you trust, but so that difference in philosophy is very much at the at the heart of that. As far as your question in terms of effectiveness, it really is, in China's case, it's how you balance the things, right? So what they're attempting to do is to create a lot of freedom and creativity in areas that are not political, let's say, And so you see a lot of entrepreneurship, you see a lot of product development, you see a lot of creativity happening in that way. So the stereotype that you don't see creativity happening is an old stereotype, whereas a lot of creativity certainly happening. And the system can work well if they can achieve that kind of balance. It's proven to have worked well. Since I started going there in 1984, per capita income, real per capita income, has increased by 26 times. The longevity rate is increased by 10 years. The poverty rate has fallen from 88% to less than 1% in terms of, basics like starvation and things. And if you read history, Plato's Republic, he talks about the cycles, democracy, an autocratic and the benevolent despot and all of that. Each has their own vulnerability. The vulnerability of democracy, which has been a remarkable system, and I don't have to extol the benefits of it, but the vulnerability of it has always been the internal conflict that produces itself as anarchy. In World War II, 4 democracies chose to be autocracies. Because there was internal disorder, and there was the belief, will somebody bring about order and get control of this situation? That was in Germany, Italy, Japan, and Spain. They were parliamentary systems that turned themselves over to that. So both systems have vulnerabilities. I think the main thing that we need to think about is those vulnerabilities. Democracy is an amazing system because the adherence to the rules and the system and the checks and balances is quite amazing, and it gives it a flexibility to change without civil wars. But there has to be the respect of the rules. And when you see something like they will not accept elections, or they will not accept rules. History has shown when the causes that people are behind are more important to them than the system is in jeopardy.